Hey everyone, it's David Schwartzberg here. We are learning the Sefer Shomer Emunim. We are up to Perek Gimel. At the end of Perek Beis, we touched on at the very end that in order to have the proper Bitachon, the proper trust, one has to have a mind frame of Temimus. Temimus, we're going to loosely translate as simplicity. Sometimes it means complete. In order to believe, in order to trust that the shefa comes directly from Hashem. Starts Perek Gimel, V'narech Kitzas, and I just want to point out we're going to split this Perek Gimel into two to make it easier to swallow. So V'narech Kitzas Me'inyan Temimus. I'm going to talk a little bit about this inyan of Temimus. V'yois shekol koitev midas haBitachon, because this measuring stick, the pole of Bitachon, mistoivev v'hoylech alzeh koitev shel Temimus, is really going to be based on the measuring stick of your Temimus. Knesset Yisrael is praised with the term Yanasi Tamasi, the Yoina, the bird, which is Tamim. The Medrash tells us, Kol Shevach Knesset Yisrael Shnekrom Yoina Tamo, explains the Medrash in what way is Bnei Yisrael compared to the Yoina. My Yoina Tamo, Vihi Yoise Tamo Kol Ha'ifos, Yoina which is more Tamim than all other birds, Kach Yisrael Tamimim, so too Klal Yisrael. Ma Yoina Mitzuyenes, and he explains, he gives examples. Just like the Yoina is, Mitzuyenes is distinguished, Kach Yisrael Mitzuyanim B'tiklacha, so to Klal Yisrael is distinguished in their haircut. And in parentheses, the Shomer Emunim explains, the Hainu She'ein Anu Manichim Beloris Kanog, we don't have the forelock, which is the hair coming down over the head. The Noisim Peis V'Zakin, rather we have Peis and we have a beard. Ubemila, and we're different with Mila, the tzitzis. Uma Yoina Peshetes Savor Kishareitzim L'Shechato, a Yoina, when it's time to shecht it, it stretches out its neck to be shechted. Kach Yisrael Poishtim Savorum L'Gabi Kodesh Baruch Hu L'Kabel is a Yoisa Bahavo. So to Klal Yisrael stretches out their neck to receive whatever Gzeira Hashem has for them with love. K'dechsiv, as David Melech says, Ki Olecha Hayragnu Kol Yoyim, for you Hashem we kill ourselves all day. Uma Yoina Einu Mumira Bazuka Misho Shemakira Bazuka Rishon. Just like a Yoina, once it meets its mate, it doesn't go for another mate. Kach Yisrael Misho Shekir LaKadosh Baruch Hu Lo Yimiru Ba'achar, so to Klal Yisrael, they recognize HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they don't swap Hashem for anything else. And the Medrash continues with many more examples. Afterwards, the Medrash writes, Ma Yoina Mushugeres Regliois Harbe, which he explains, the Hainu Sheporchis and Merochaik V'chayzris Tekina, that it flies far away, but it'll return back to its nest eventually. Kocha Yisrael Golo Begolo Zeh B'choy V'zeh B'choy, Klal Yisrael is sent out into exile here and there, Kamoy Aseres Hashvatim Shegolo Yidei Melech Ashur, like the Aseres Hashvatim that were sent out into exile by Melech Ashur. But they all will return to their nest, which is Zeh Yushalayim Ikochenu Shitibanda B'Meheru V'Imenu Amen. They'll come back to Yushalayim. But Oy Dosha B'Gemara, in the Gemara Brachas, the Gemara darshans on this idea. Ma yoina ina nitzeles ela b'chnafeho. A yoina is not saved only with its wings. Af Yisrael ina nitzela ela b'mitzvah. So the Klal Yisrael is only saved with mitzvahs. T'chsiv, as David Melech says, kanfe yoina nechla kesef. The wings of the yoina is covered in silver. V'asherish hakol sheyoina hi yoyse mitamemes mikol ha'ifos. The main idea here, the sherish, the root here is that the yoina is more Tamim than all birds. Kach Yisrael hakdoshim heimim aleim Temimus agabi Kodesh Baruch Hu. So to Klal Yisrael is holy in that they are Temimim to Hashem. Again, with that frame of mind of simplicity towards Hashem. Temimus is the foundation, is the root of the midah of trust, of Bitachon. Which we will explain, and I am going to talk about it a little bit at length. Muva b'Sefer mitzvos is brought down in the Sefer mitzvos of the Ramban in Mitzvah Ches. Shenitztavinu liyois levavenu tamim imo yisal levahu. And we are commanded to be tamim with Hashem. Who shenemar, as it says in the pasuk in Chumash Devarim, tamim tiyeh im Hashem Elokecha. You should be tamim with Hashem. The inyan hatzavo hazois sheniyachil levenu ela levadi yisporach. This tzavo, this command to be like this to Hashem, Ishenamin shulabado isakol. Hashem is the one that does everything. V'hu hayedeya mitas kol osid, and He is the one that knows the truth of the future. Umimenu levado nidrosh habois min neviov, and only from Him alone can we darshan the habois, the future, from His neviim, or anshe chasidov, or from anshe chasidov, which He says Ritzelema is the ur metumim. So that we're allowed to. But we're not allowed to look into the words, into what the astrologers, is people that see the Shemayim, and not people like them. And even those that will say that, listen, okay, we're not going to trust what the astrologers are saying, but if we hear something from them, at least you should say that it's b'dei shemayim. Again, you're not supposed to, but if you do, says the Ramban, at least say it's hakol b'dei shemayim. Why? Ki hu mishanim areches hakechavim, because Hashem can change the system of the stars and the mazales kirtzoinei as Hashem wills it. Meifir oisois badim, Hashem undoes the signs of the diviners. The diviners were known to use tarot cards or astrology to predict the future. The koismin, or the augur, which they would base it on the behavior of birds. Yehoilel, the koismin Yehoilel, Hashem will make fools of the augur. Rather, we should believe that whatever will come, the future, is based on how close we are to the avodah of Hashem. As Yirmiyah ensures us, El derech hagoyim al tamadu, don't learn from the ways of the goyim and the other nations, and from the signs of the shemayim you should not fear. It says in the Gemara Bitachon, how do we know that one should not ask a question about what's going to be from the Kaldim, from the astrologers? As it says in Chumash Devarim, Tamim tiyeh im Hashem Elokecha. You should be Tamim. That's the end of the Gemara. And he explains, what are Chaldeim? Chaldeim are those that are busy with the Melechas HaKechavim, the stars, basically an astrologer. The Lashon Sifrei, if you do this, then you'll be Tam. And he explains, Upirish, this that the Pasuk answers, again over there in Chumash Devarim, Lishol ha'asid, to ask about the future, from ghosts, from spiritual spirits, umesim, and from the dead, umin ma'oinen, and from the toothsayer. They would take teeth and they would throw it and see how it got dented, and based on that, they would be able to predict somebody's future. The koisim, or the augur, like we explained earlier. So first, the pasuk says, the Torah says not to believe these people that can predict the future, and then it says your heart should be tamim. So you see that one that does not follow these people, so then you are tamim. And you should not be scared from those that predict the future. But the neviim of Hashem, you could be doish in what they say and listen to them. And this is how Unkelis translates it over there in Pasuk Gimel. Shalim tehei b'tachalto Hashem Elokecha. That again, shalim tehei, you should walk in perfect trust, but b'tachalto, in fear, like we say b'tchilu rechimu, b'tachalto, in fear, the Hashem Elokecha, of Hashem. V'chein Amar HaKasav, and so too David Melech says, Yihi libi tamim, may I wholeheartedly follow b'chukecha, in your laws. And he continues, V'mitzvah hazois nitztava Avram Avinu. And again, all the while, this is the Ramban talking here. V'mitzvah hazois nitztava Avram Avinu, kashabah HaKadosh Baruch Hu lichros le'bris lasis le'zera. When Hashem came to make a bris with Avram Avinu and to promise him children, Omar, he said, his halech lefonav yetamim, walk before me and you'll be tamim. Ki mipnei shahaya hu alav hashalom yisoid be'emunah, because Avram Avinu was the foundation of Amunah, va'acholik al kastim, and he argued with the kastim, shahaya miyachasim, hakoiches kulam l'shemesh l'yech l'koichavim. The kastim believed that all their energy came from the sun, from the stars, from the moon. V'hu ro'a sheyesh aleim yoysim manig, and he saw that there is a somebody that's running the world, a yoysim manig. So tzivo oid lesanich lefanav liyois tamim. When Hashem saw this in Abraham Avinu, He commanded him more to go in his ways and to be tamim with him. And there should be nothing else in his heart that's true besides Hashem. And he shouldn't even think into with his das whether it makes sense if there's a yotzir, a manig over everything else in the world. Rather, his heart should be with Hashem. Because Hashem again is the one that changes the systems. Any systems that's out there, Hashem can change it. As it says in Gemara Shabbos, go away from your astrologers. And what the Gemara over there explains is that there's no mazal for Klal Yisrael. We are able to change our mazal based on our tefillah, based on our schusim. And the conversation between Avram Avinu and Hashem was that Avram Avinu says that I'm looking at the astrology and I see that I'm not befitting to have a child. And Hashem says, "Same is tagninus shalcha, go away from your astrologers." Why? Because there is no mazal to Klal Yisrael. And zehu inyan mitzvah azois, and that's the inyan of this mitzvah is kira balalachas gedolos. Says the Bahag, because of one of the mitzvahs in the tiyeh mitzvahs is liyois tamim, is to be tamim. And v'ulei choshev harav harambam shita. And before I go on, the Rambam, which argues that it's not one of the mitzvahs of the tiyeh mitzvahs, is because there's a machlekes Rishonim b'diuk what is included in the tiyeh mitzvahs. And one of the arguments is on the mitzvah of Tamim. Is Tamim one of the tiyeh mitzvahs? So the Rambam, which we saw so far, and is still talking here, as well as the Bahag, believes that Tamim is one of the tiyeh mitzvahs. And now he explains the Rambam, which argues, he wants to explain what's pshat the Rambam argues. And he says, it's because the Rambam believes that the mitzvah of Tamim includes all the mitzvahs. And to go in the ways of the Torah. As David Melech says, Ashrei, praised are those Temimi Derech whose way is Tamim. Ha'hoilchem Torah Hashem, who follow in the Torah of Hashem. That's why the Rambam did not include Tamim as one of the mitzvahs of the tiyeh mitzvahs. Of the Rambam. That the Rambam didn't include it because Tamim it includes all the mitzvahs. And therefore, it's like a prerequisite to all the mitzvahs. Brings down the Shomer Emunim, the Sefer Charedim, Umailis Shleimus Habitachon Bo Yisbarach Mitzvah Shenis, that Shenemar Tamim tiyeh Hashem Elokecha, that a second mitzvah is to be Tamim with Hashem. Again, it's a separate mitzvah in the tiyeh mitzvahs. V'chein kosav Ramban, and he quotes the Ramban, which we just saw before. Shizu mitzvahs hasei shalai nishal mehoivri hashemayim hachoizim bekachavim. Do not seek guidance from the astrologers of Eloi Mizalasam and not those like them. Masha also yois that predict the future. Nishma dava mehem namen ki hakol b'yad Hashem. If you do listen to the astrologers, believe that everything is b'yad Hashem. Meifar Yisrael, he could undo their ways. Kefi his karvina avodasa, based on how close you are in the avodah of Hashem. This is what the Gemara Pesachim says. Umina nilmoid the mitzvah of toich bo yisporach b'chol leiv b'chol inyoni ha'olam. That from the mitzvah of being tamim, you can learn the mitzvah of bitachon, because the mitzvah of bitachon doesn't say it outright in the Torah. And he says here different psukim, kimufurish the Kabbalah. Kabbalah is referring to Nevi'im and Ksuvim, where bitachon is brought down. Like for example, in Yirmiyah it says Baruch HaGever sheyiftach b'Hashem, and Or HaGever sheyiftach b'Adam. Blessed is the person that believes in Hashem, cursed is the person that believes in another person. Uksiv, like David Melech says, Bitchu boy b'chol eis, you should believe boy in Hashem at all times. It says in Mishlei, Bitachon Hashem b'chol libecha, trust in Hashem with all your heart. V'hu minyan taryag le'Rabbeinu Yoina v'lagoyin, which is the Bahag. Rash bin Gevirol Ramban Usmak Akan Le'Shoinai, and he quotes different sources where those that believe that being Tamim is one of the taryag mitzvahs. V'tira achi medivir Ramban, says Hashem Emunim, you see my brother, from the words of the Ramban and from the Baal HaCharedim, that ki mitzvos habitachon amrumas b'Torah nilmay mitzvos tamim tiyeh shu midas Temimus. That bitachon, which is hinted in the Torah, is learned out from the mitzvah of being tamim tiyeh with Hashem, which is the midah of Temimus, simplicity. Shuhu midas emes midas shel Yaakov Avinu. Tamim is the midah of emes, which is the midah of Yaakov Avinu. K'dichsiv, as it says in Chumash Bereshis, that Yaakov ish tam, Yaakov became a ish tam. Uchsiv, and it says in Micha, Titein emes Yaakov, you will keep faith or truth with Yaakov. So you see that in Yaakov, there's tam, there's emes, shuhu midah hamachriya bein kol hamidos. Tam, again, Tam, I'm putting Yaakov Avinu, Tam and emes all in the same boat here. Being Tam is the midah which is machriya, which balances all the midos, which is a nachla bli mitzarim, which we'll explain in just a second. So he brings down on the bottom here, based on the Zohar, that Yaakov is known as Tferes, as splendor, glory. There's Avram, which is Chesed, there's Yitzchak, which is Gvura, and then there's Yaakov, which is Machriya. He balances out the midos. It's a sense of shleimus. It's a sense of being Tam and emes, a completeness. And Nachla bli mitzarim also refers to Yaakov, because we know the Gemara Shabbos explains that one that is Hame'anig es Shabbos, one that delights in Shabbos, so they give him they give him an inheritance without boundaries. And the Gemara Shabbos there quotes the pasuk that says, that you shall again delight in Hashem, and Hashem will cause that you should ride on the heights of the world. To feast on the nachla, on the inheritance of Yaakov Avicha. So we see that Yaakov, when it says nachla b'mitzarim, it's without boundaries. It's teferes, it's tam, it's emes, it's machriya between the other midos, and that is what being tam is. We'll stop here, and we'll continue in the next class.